Okay, I think this is good for us. We've got about 40 people. Thank you so much for joining us. And it's pretty interesting that a couple of my colleagues and I are actually at the airport lounge. So it's absolutely work from anywhere to the fullest. Without taking much time, let me quickly invite my fellow panelists, as I had promised on my LinkedIn post, and I think also ET has done. We've got an amazing set of people, great context to demystifying what is customer success, what is customer experience in a very difficult segment of manufacturing. We all can give 20 examples of what we feel in the e-commerce and the retail world, but what some of our colleagues have achieved and what they were going to share in the next 45, 50 minutes is absolutely what I call is gold dust and a masterclass on how to decode what we call is customer success in the manufacturing space. So Viplab from Ashok Leyland, if you could switch on your camera. Good afternoon. Rohit, my partner in crime here at the lounge in Mumbai Airport from Jindal Steel, and Rinkesh from Oracle, if you can switch on your camera. Absolutely brilliant, guys. Thank you so much for being here. And as you have promised, or as I have asked for your promise, whatever you say is the whole truth and is from the bottom of your heart. And you will share all the gold dust with our colleagues and friends from the industry. What we will do is, Rinkesh, I would invite you to possibly give us a little bit of a context at the top of this hour. And then as soon as you're done in the next 5-7 minutes, then we will open up and request everyone to start chiming in. We will have one of our colleagues who would join us. I think if Sonali, if Somik might be coming in. So we will welcome Somik as and when he joins us. But Rinkesh, over to you. Let's hear your perspective, your viewpoints, and setting the context here. And then I'm going to dive in.
Yeah, thanks, Adit. And good afternoon, everyone who have joined us. So the first thing which I would say that during the last 2.5 years, we have seen the three phases: pre-pandemic, pandemic, and post-pandemic. And to the best I can understand, there has been a huge tectonic shift between the customer behavior and the operations in which we have to hail in the manufacturing segments. Let it be the electrical vehicles, you can say the heavy utility vehicles like tractors, to your boilers, to your gear machines, anything and everything. The perspective has changed. One thing we were aware, but most of the people in the industry have realized that customer centricity and customer experience is the key in which they can drive their success path. Now, how this happens is just not merely, we can just divide it into 2 or 3 segments, but it's a holistic view where it's not only the back office, your ERP, your accounts, your financial hub, your supply chain, your logistics, your transportation model, but also your front end, which is your typically the marketing piece, your sales piece, your service piece, obviously your dealer segmentations and all those things when they marry each other. And one thing which we have realized, and most of the companies are getting benefit, which is with our data unification. Because as I understand, apart from the BFSI segment, manufacturing segment is one where there's a huge chunk of data which is residing. We know that the data is residing, but we do not know what insights we can have from it. So it's very important that wherever the data piece is lying, how importantly, we can utilize it, we can unify it. Now the trick is, like, say, for example, we just go on a plain day because it's a customer experience, and obviously no one will doubt now that the expectations of even a B2B or B2B, B2C customer expect is same. Okay, whether you are shopping from Amazon or a B2B customer is getting the things from the dealer, or directly the dealer is consuming the goods from the from the parent company. It is very important the experience in which they have, the number of clicks in which they can place an order, see their order, right? A seamless cancellation, my credit hold, anything which I have to check, I can just go it on a fly, right? But more important for an organization, for manufacturing, is very important that how do we start with? Okay, gone are the days where we used to plan our sales service on Excel sheet or some unconventional way of defining the things on the CRM, that like so many territories are there and all those things. But the importance is that how we can even start planning with a data-driven approach. Data-driven approach, as we have seen, like many of the people who started their books before the outset of the pandemic, they do not know how to adjust. They do not know what seasonality will come into effect. Now, data-driven approach is something where Oracle a CX set of solutions start with, right from your sales planning, where you can actually model, predict your data into your sales engine with some pre-built AI ML algorithms. Then when it comes to sales, it is just not about the direct sales or the indirect sales. There's new avenue, which is obviously the e-commerce. Strange, but yes, true. We have seen in B2B segments, people are going for the commerce platform. And the commerce platform is like one of the major glass manufacturing industries in India. They are going on this B2B commerce platform powered by Oracle, where not only the dealers but the institutional people who want, or the corporate guys who want to go for the buying thing, they have their own rate cards, they have their own ordering card. So such simplification has been done, right? When it comes to marketing, whether it is B2B, B2C, or your outreach program, because most of the times in B2B industry, it is just directly not the customers. Like say, for example, if I go into the cement industry, where I have been helping one of the customers using our CX breed of products. So it's very important because there the first customer, you can say, is the mason, which is not so educated, but yet we have to build that rapport. Now, that conventional email, SMS, and all those things won't fly. Again, it depends that how the segment is, which segment, what propensity we want to reach out. Like say, for example, in tractor industry, we know the end consumers are mostly the farmers, but actually the farmers don't buy it, right? The farmers have their own ways. Again, there is an influencer in that particular roadmap. So we have to map this persona, give them the delight right from your marketing, understand where those touch points are there in their customer journey, right? Then comes your sales. Now, sales is, now we have seen that, during the pandemic, the sales guys cannot visit the dealers, distributors, they cannot reach out to the corporates. So how do they go for it, right? So again, how beautifully this we call it as data 360. Okay, so how do we segregate all this data, whether it is a dealer 360, a customer 360, or a profile 360? That is where Oracle's CX plays an important role. And the best part is unification of data, as I have always believed that unless you do not have the golden record, whether it is your sales, service, or in your marketing, we cannot have the success. On the fly, while we understand service is just a part of a regulatory because we have sold a product, but believe me, service is a huge chunk of revenue which is coming up. I will give you an example of a two-wheeler of an electric two-wheeler manufacturer. He's coming up with a new business model called battery as a service. So you can also subscribe depending on how many battery consumption you have, and there are battery bunks. They can go subscribe and buy it at the optimum price. So there are various business models. If I go into heavy engineering, so there is one of the major bearing manufacturers in India where Oracle has helped them to go on a pay as you go model. So say for example, the typical case which we helped them was like a heavy duty stone crusher. Okay, they are using very heavy bearings. Now, how many bearings fail is always a worry for the customer. They said, okay, for this much of output of tonnage of your stone, okay, I sign up for this particular amount. So whatever bearings are going off the shelf, they are they're from my pocket. So such new business models are also coming. It is just not the convention. So the key is, while we never believed customer experience can, a customer centricity can be in the typical B2B or the industrial manufacturing thing, but yes, it is helping a lot. Where the customer is always a centricity, customer is always in the centricity. So it's like the sun in our solar system. I always refer it. The sun, the central nodal piece, is the customer. Rest all the planets which you see are the different pieces, whether it is marketing, sales, service, your ERP, your supply chain, and even the customers are just not the customers who are actually using it. The dealers, the distributors would be your first customers. The aggregators would be your first customers, right? So the most important point is that, and even the employees, whether it is in my production bay, whether it is in my supply bay, they are also the customers. It's just not about, I just pick up the phone, visit the distributor and do. No. How easy it is for me to map my journey visiting the distributor on the routes that you call it as beat plan. How artificial intelligence can help me map the correct beat plan if I have to do a sales. If I have to understand the service, can I predict when I can expect a ticket? And in marketing, can I understand, am I profiling the right set of people, or do I need to change my marketing campaign, marketing strategy, or so on? So this is where a rich portfolio of CX, which is helping the customers to reach their success. And also, again, I will say, when we look at solution, when I talk with customers, it is just not about the solution. Try to understand there are multiple systems in your organizations which are capturing, monitoring right from your production to supply. All these have to marry with the front end office, which is our CX applications. Then and then only you can reap the real benefit of data. We call it as data unification, or one single data platform. Then and then only your customer experience or customer centricity would be correct, right? So with this, thanks buddies, I would be in the panel to answer your queries or put certain more experience which I gathered while interacting with the customers during these couple of years. Over to you, Aditya. Thanks.
Thank you, Rinkesh. It was almost a zip file. So many different perspectives, so many different point of views. And I can promise you one thing, that by the next 40 to 50 minutes, we will get Rohit, Viplab, and you and me at least give certain very key mantras of decoding. With that, let me start with Rohit. I know you go to catch a flight, so we'll try to catch as much of your attention and information. Rohit, you belong to the most fundamental core, one of the core industries, steel, right? I mean, it's used in several walks of life. Your customers, as Rinkesh was mentioning, they are not necessarily the customers who we see in a day-to-day life. They're not service. They're hardcore people who take your raw material and add further value to it, right? So what does all this mean for you? What does customer success mean for you from a Jindal Steel's perspective?
Thank you, Aditya. Very indeed a pleasure meeting you at the airport, at the lounge right now. And it was for me quite a serendipity of sorts. So thank you for the opportunity once again, the Economic Times and my fellow panel members. Coming back to the point you raised, Aditya, one is, so there are two kinds of customer segmentation typically in steel and cement, which briefly was touched upon by Rinkesh as well. Steel and cement are completely different products because the replacement of these products are not possible by the virtue of the nature of the product. Once the steel and cement go inside, they go inside till eternity, till the building is collapsed or it lives on for generations. So that's number one. Number two, therefore, from the service parameter, there is very remote possibility to any service. You wouldn't find any service team in Jindal and in steel and cement companies which would typically have service teams. They may have a pre-sale service teams, but post-sale service team is non-existent. Number two, we have two segmentations. One is, of course, the B2B and B2C. In B2B, typically the OEMs are our largest customers, and we ensure that the steel which is produced is made to order. Cement is a little more commoditized, so it's uniform. There are a couple of grades, 2-3 grades, which can differentiate, but otherwise largely you'll see a wide array of steel grades, right from E250 to 350 and so forth, so on and so forth. So it's very important that we segment both of our B2B and B2C in different parameters. B2B, it's critical for us to ensure that whatever the bespoke designing is shared with us, whatever the grade of steel which is required for a typical project, say one of the refineries is getting made at Barmer, Rajasthan. So they need special steel, and special steel is something which we have always ensured that we bring innovation in the manufacturing so that the steel is not only more ductile, but it also has rich properties to last longer and longer. That's a very key segment in the B2B segment. Coming back to the B2C segment, so cement typically is a B2C product where we have close to about 5,000 channel partners across the length and the breadth of the country. And there's one steel product which is called the rebars, commonly known as Sariya in Hindi language. So this rebar and cement go hand in hand. This is one of the major aspects for us to ensure that the retail presence is not suboptimal at any given point in time. The retail presence and using the technologies of AI and machine learning and analytics, we ensure that whatever SKUs are running out gets auto-replicated at the soon. These are two parameters we make sure that we imbibe them.
Perfect, Rohit. You use the right terms. You are absolutely made for this webinar, AI, ML. Without these terms, there is no fashion in today's webinars. So you have hit the right buttons. But jokes apart, Rohit, great description of B2B and B2C. And I'm going to double click that in a moment. But let's get Viplab in here. Viplab, very different industry, right? We not only have grown up seeing the brand, we have seen how the brand makes a significant difference to the lives of every single individual. But it's not a consumer brand in that sense. So when a topic like this comes in, how does Ashok Leyland and you and your team decode it in your minds?
So hi Aditya and hi Rikesh, Rohit. Thanks, ET Auto. So Aditya, let me bring in a new angle to this discussion. We will be seen like a typical manufacturer by a lot of people, and some would know us what we do. But if you look at old world, there was manufacturing and services industries were quite separated. There were hardcore service industries. Now, one of the things a few years back, we realized that there is no great money to be made in manufacturing hardcore production of vehicles. Second thing, we realized that if we don't get in the entire customer ecosystem, somebody else can easily take him away. A. B. If we don't get into the customer ecosystem, he will not get the experience of the brand that we want, because then he will end up, working with different partners for his different requirements. So interestingly, what we did is we started a customer solutions business department within the organization. And the only thought process this department had was to look at what does the customer do in the entire life cycle that he owns our brand. And let me share a small example, because examples are real and they can be related better. Typically, a tanker owner, fuel or water tanker owner, big ones, will end up spending about 3 crores in 6 years. Now, when you look at vehicle price, body building and financing, that's only 19%. And traditionally, as OEMs, everybody has been playing only in this 19% of the wallet. And then there comes fuel, and you have driver, and you have vehicle maintenance, and you have insurance, resale, so many other things are there. Sourcing business. And here customer was, working with a lot of others. And some of the standards were not as per what we wanted in terms of taking care of the, product, and, he was not getting the right experience. And we were realizing that our wallet share was going down. The wallet share was down, and profitability in what we were selling was going down. So there's intense competition. So then we started investigating, and coming back to this example, 46% of this 3 crore is only diesel. And then 10% is driver, and then you have maintenance and insurance. So we said, how can we participate with the customer? We have immense data with us. Our vehicles now have fitted eye alerts, which capture each and every habit of the driver and the vehicle performance. So we said, how do we partner with the customer? We can't open a pump. That's not what is our core, but we can give him an Indhan card. Now, cards everybody can give. So what is our specialty? Then our cards, are tailor-made for this application. They can bring these cards to our workshop and redeem them for parts, services. So it's an ecosystem. You're looping him back in, you're giving him discounts, but since he's coming back to you, he's spending more with you. So you make little money on the Indhan card, but you make more money on the service and parts. And you are able to give quality of service, which a roadside mechanic cannot give. So both objectives of keeping the product quality, the brand imagery high, and making money get addressed. The second we looked was drivers. What do you do with drivers? You have a driver, you have a fleet manager, you have a fleet owner. There are 3 separate entities. So we said that we have immense knowledge on how our vehicle should be driven, how our vehicle should be maintained, how do we real time share it with the buyer so that he benefits. If you see, our company's mantra is aapki jeet hamari jeet. In your success lies our success. That's what we keep on thinking every day. We can't make money till such time our customer makes money. Our customer has to do better than our competitor's customer so that he makes more money and competitor customer comes to us. It's a very simple game. So for the we have a AL Sarthi app where we real-time monitor driver behavior, how he's braking, how he's accelerating, where he's stopping, he's idling. Live, we can give coaching to the driver. Live, we score the driver. We give feedback to fleet manager on fleet utilization. There is geofencing, of course. We give scores to fleet manager of the driver and tell them how your driver can improve. We give a lot of data to the owner himself, how our fleet is getting utilized, how much fuel is getting consumed, how much load was carried, how much money did he make on a trip. And it's amazing. So we have dashboards and we give dashboards to our big customers.
So Viplav, what you have created is a beautiful ecosystem of not just, so for you, when you say customer success, it is far beyond the walls of your compound, far beyond the walls of where Ashok Leyland ends. It actually starts from there and goes much wider. So brilliant examples, and I'm going to come back to you in a bit. Rinkesh, you heard two perspectives. One from a hardcore industry where there is segregation, there's segmentation, there's a depth into taking it into the cement industry, and as Viplav mentioned, the complexity of dealing up with multiple variables in an ecosystem. You talked of data unification at the top of the hour, and it kind of stuck with me. Can you tell us one or two very simple starting points for about more than 100 people are listening in to us right now? Where should some organization which is in the journey of where a Rohit is or where a Viplav is as a head of a function start? Because I think it's really important for people to know what could be a starting point to start this journey from a data unification or using that data.
Okay. So first of all, say for example, if I have to take a sales function, right? So most of the times we deal with the dealers and the distributors, right? It's right from the onboarding to going, and even while Viplav mentioned that there is immense and intense competition, most of the intelligence gathering happens when from the dealers and the distributors, right? So that marketing intelligence has to be captured by the salespeople at that particular level, by the sales guy. Secondly, when I visit a dealer distributor, it's just not about his inventories, but also I should have a clear-cut understanding of his credibility, which is lying in my ERP. That's another system. So I should have a complete 360-degree view. That means apart from my sales data, like the leads, opportunities, and the orders which have been shipped, I should also understand that what is his past records. That is one, because in that way I understand what are the schemes or payouts I can devise, right? Because it is also important to keep that chain alive. These guys actually work on multiple schemes. Obviously, say in heavy automobile, those schemes may not be prominent. But say, for example, in cement industries or in paint industries, almost 40-45 schemes in a year run. If I have to run those 45 schemes across, say, 20-25,000 dealers, distributors, it becomes very immense to understand and stitch every piece of data which is flowing. And currently, I'm not talking about any customer data. It's my process data, which is lying between my ecosystem of my sales, right? So I have to stitch. So while everyone is capturing, the one thing you need is a unified platform. So like Viplav said that they are having some application. I understand, as I have visited also, like, people have multiple, almost 6 to 7 applications. Again, they are hosted on different, service providers, different technology stack, different way of handling. Some are homegrown, some are outsourced. Now there is a challenge. How do you marry those applications? Can we have, now where do I start? You have to start from whatever functions you feel important. Say I started with sales. right? So when I start with sales, what are those points I have to, because obviously whenever a sales guy visits a distributor or retailer, he looks upon his balance book also, right? Can I bring it on his mobile app, right? While he's looking for a dealer 360, he knows the in and out, what was the last payment, what is the credit hold, and all those things, right? Similarly, if we have this complete rollout of schemes, which he has availed for, right? Because many times there are duplication of schemes. You won't believe, one of the air conditioner company, leading air conditioner companies in India, they were losing almost 15 to 16 crores out of their 200 crore payout of their incentives to dealer distributor. And this was just because of the false competition, wrong competition. And this is just not, because they were not able to match two data somewhere, because some data was in the account, some was the data was there in the accruals. So how do I manage? So it's at every step. The one thing you need to have understand is, like, go for a solution which has got a unified platform. Go for a system which can integrate, right? Because integration is an important aspect in the IT landscape also, right? I cannot have multiple applications. Okay, I know marketing piece is good for from that company, or sales application is good from, no, that's not the way. Try to understand what requirements you have. Forget about which is the best. What is best for you? Come on a unified platform. Make all the data available, right? And this is how you start with. This is my
Perfect. No, Rinkesh, I think it's beautiful. Just to summarize, you're saying, hey, just look at your process data first. Don't over-engineer. Don't run behind every shiny thing is not gold. Make it much more real. And the third part is try to unify data, try to bring them in one source so that you can make sense of it. Rohit, we'll come back to you, Rohit, and I'm going to ask a little bit of a pointed question. Rohit, when pandemic hit us, the world did change, the axis changed. We are coming back. We don't know if we'll be back to the same way as March 15th, 2020 was. The first time somebody told us on March 17th that we'll work from home, I was very excited because I thought it's a 5-10 days break of not traveling. But I never realized it's going to be the new way to work. Customer management has changed. When you look at both the segments, Rohit, and I'll request you to answer both in B2B as well as in B2B2C, what are the fundamental shifts that you would have to do to now manage this ever-changing new normal for both the customers? Is there any rewiring you have done? How have you gone about working with your team, working with your technology players, working with your customers to drive this change? And what is the mantra behind this? So some insights between the pre, during, and the post-pandemic world.
Right. So the pre-pandemic era was all good, and when the pandemic struck us and caught us unawares, it was actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise for us. And I'll tell you how. Because of the pandemic, the Chinese ports were shut, but the world still at large needed steel, and that was the first opportunity when the world started to get the flavor of Indian steel. And since then, there's been no looking back. So during the pandemic, India's export of steel rose by more than 18% for the first time in history. So while we were the key beneficiaries, but it overall helped the industry. But during the pandemic, the government projects were shut because the labor migration had happened. So while we took care of another piece through exports, expanding our footprint globally, giving world the taste of Indian steel, back home, there was a demand in the rural market because wave 2 was a little more severe, but wave 1 was still okay. And it did not impact the tier 2 and tier 3 and the rural markets as much as it impacted the metropolitan cities. So we immediately mapped all our dealers onto our website. We activated our stockyards because steel typically in cement requires to be kept in a stockyard, given the logistical challenge it throws. We mapped them and we mapped their lat long on our website. Any immediate delivery which was required, any lead generation happened, we'd ensure that the delivery happens from the company transport, because even private transporters were not available at that point in time. So it was really throwing a colossal logistical challenge. So all of that catapulted into one of the most fascinating learning experience for the organization. We could never imagine even in the wildest of our dreams that this humanitarian crisis could turn out to be such a great opportunity for us. And as we are emerging stronger after the ferocity of COVID, it has only helped us to integrate, to work as what Rinkesh just mentioned a while back. We have integrated all platforms on billing on B2C, right from lead generation to production planning basis the SKU availability at our dealer stores and dealer retail shops, and also to ensure that the delivery is seamless within the 24 to 48 hours, which is as per our standard operating procedure.
Rohit, I'll stay with you. What has been the most difficult part of this transformation journey? Where did you see the biggest difficulties happen within the organization? Because the colleagues who have joined us in the afternoon, today afternoon, they must have all done this journey in some form or fashion, right? We were all transformative in nature. Human mind always tries to solve a problem. But what do you think was the biggest learning in this implementation of the so-called unified platform that you are talking about?
So the greatest learning has been integration of technology across all valuable stakeholders. What billing platform for dealers was happening on a different platform. The logistical transportation billing was system peering was happening on a different platform. This time, the pandemic taught us to integrate all of that. So at any given point in time, if our customer serves, if our customer has any requirement, we can map the journey A to journey Z of the entire customer fulfillment. So right from the need to fulfillment has been the greatest learning experience in this journey.
Brilliant point, Rohit. I think the assimilation of rather than doing piecemeal, you looked at the end to end. Viplab, great timing to bring you in here. Yours is a far more vibrant problem. While Rohit has a legacy of how things were done, and he had to turn this legacy around and use this opportunity to favor. Yours is more because you could do n number of things. So let me start with the first question to you. How do you prioritize what to do first? Because there are so many variables. There is drivers, there is the manager, there is the owner, there is fuel, there is insurance, there is tires, there is the vehicle per se, there is the ecosystem of all the partners who would be willing to jump in with you because you know India like as India happens. So how do you prioritize what is important from a customer success perspective?
So Aditya, most important thing we have realized is to understand customers' business and his need. And we've always believed whether we are selling to a fleet operator or the portfolio that I handle, these smaller trucks, which are mainly individual buyers, the starting point always is to understand the customer's business, his needs, his pain points. And in that discussion itself, customer tells you what is more important for him. Whether his driver's opinion is more important because he solely is dependent on his driver, or operational money is important, or safety is important, or service is important so that his vehicle is up and running 24 hours. Customer, in the explanation of his business, he will throw these pointers which will tell you where to start the entire conversation from. And that will also tell you where to focus your energy on. Of course, as I said, we now don't believe on selling a product. We sell a solution, and we want to participate in the entire ecosystem of the customer. As Rinkesh mentioned, all data needs to be integrated. We have homegrown systems in the company where all kinds of data gets integrated. There is a separate team that churns in the data and keeps on sharing analysis. We utilize that analysis. For example, I should share this with you. When the pandemic set in and initial panic set in to understand how our industry will shape up, one of the data that we started tracking is fleet movement, because we knew that essential goods need to move despite the pandemic. And we could track 32%, 40%, 65%. That started giving us internal confidence when we started looking at fleet movement. And because our trucks are fitted with what we call as iAlert, we knew which of our fleet operators were moving first. And then we got in touch with them to understand what is that they need. And we've helped out people during pandemic with service repairs, tire replacements, and that has built up a lot of equity for us. So, data assimilation happening centrally, being churned and utilized like this in the beginning of the pandemic helped us a lot to, take the first mover advantage during the pandemic itself. And that's how we continue to tap into our customer database, that once he buys from us. Word of mouth is very important in our industry, the experience that we give. That's how the word of mouth spreads and we get more customers. So that's always been our theory. Again, I said, aapki jeet, hamari jeet. For us, our dealers need to succeed. And for our dealers, customers need to succeed. For both us and our dealers, our customers need to succeed. So that's been our mantra. So we are not too much into selling. So we don't get into a vehicle price discussion or something. We always try to understand consumer business and then accordingly pitch the entire solution.
But Viplav, great points. Aapki jeet, hamari jeet. I want to stay with that thought and maybe double click this a little bit more for our audience here. That if, because here, how do you influence the change in behavior of so many customers? It is one thing that as a great brand, you can push an app. How do you drive adoption? How do you ensure that Indhan card is actually getting adopted? I see value. Yes, I wanted that. But in India, one of the biggest problems is we are a value-driven market, right? We all love that 10% off. We all love that 5 rupee off. We all love that. How do you drive change when you are spending so much of money to do all of this at the back end? And that's question one. Question two is everything about money, or is there a change in purpose of your team to say that customer experience is actually our purpose now? Money is incidental. I know I'm asking a bit of a philosophical question, Viplav, but I'm sure you might have thought about this. And Rohit, you can please jump in if you have a perspective on this.
So, Aditya, you are right. In pandemic, in fact, discounts became more important, and people were not ready to pick up any new thing that you bring to the table because it adds to the cost. So, typically, what we do is any new initiative of ours, we don't discuss it as a cost to the customer. We always look at it as a total cost of ownership. Typically, a truck is driven for 15, 17 years. So any discussion that is done with the customer is looked at in total cost of ownership terms only. It is never the initial vehicle payment. As I said, vehicle is just about 8 to 10% of the life cycle, cost that the customer ends up spending. Still, some of the new initiatives have found it difficult. I'll be very honest, to sell an Indian card. Of course, the card you can give for free because card is very cheap. But if I have to sell a device like iAlert, it is difficult. iAlert is a device that costs money. So when you're selling a device that costs money, typically you will have to get into a subscription model. In the initial part of the subscription model, you may not get money. But once customers start seeing value and customer gets addicted to the solution that has been provided, that is when you make money. So, it's difficult to bring a new solution to the table, but there are avenues, avenues which mean that you have to build up scale to show the benefit, and then once you build up scale, later on is when you start realizing the revenues and the profits out of them. When you spoke of purpose, let me tell you, purpose is not making money. That's the whole theme of Aapki Jeet, Hamari Jeet. Money comes at the end, and money is a derivative of the entire effort. Customer experience for us stays at the top. When I spoke of customer experience, I didn't deep dive into the pure experience part of it because I was trying to bring up the more important point that despite being in manufacturing, being in the ecosystem and giving experience in the ecosystem is more important today. If I'm a mere truck maker who wants to give the best experience in sales, give gifts to my customers, take care of them day in and day out, that is not enough. Having said that, it is not that we don't do it. Obviously, customer wow is very, very important to us. We have defined sales processes. We stay in touch with the customer post-sales. So we have a 3rd day follow-up, 15th day follow-up, 30th day follow-up. Later on, even when we travel, we keep on meeting customers because that is where you learn. And in our industry, one thing we have realized is if you listen to the customer, even if there is a problem, You listen to him, you solve him, he will be yours for a lifetime. And that's the theme we have always believed in. We've always had service teams, even sales teams, paying a lot of attention to what is the customer experience post purchase. At the time of purchase, everybody is nice. It's trying to project yourself in a 30-minute interview. It's the real story starts after that. And we were a firm believer. In fact, you will not believe, even when I travel, I make it a point to go to the workshop, talk to the technicians, talk to the managers, talk to customers who are sitting in the lounge. Because my business, if I want to learn, they are the best people who can teach me. What's working in the market, what are the new trends. So for us, purpose is to serve the customer, to partner with him. Money is a byproduct, it will automatically come. Yeah, that's what.
Thanks, Viplab. I hope I'm audible and visible. There's some network challenges on this side, but I'll try to continue. Okay, we are in the last segment. I'm conscious that Rohit has to catch a flight 10 minutes before me. So I'm going to now do a quick buzzer, and Rinkesh will start with you. Rinkesh, give us 2 secrets. Now, these are Oracle secrets that we're going to tell only on this forum, so that the 90 of them, almost 100 of them who are on this call, get it, to decode this. What are the 2 secrets? And this could be going deep into your experience to say, we have discussed about starting point, we've discussed about ecosystem, we've discussed about data, we've discussed about unification of platforms. What are the 2 secrets that if I, as a head of customer success or head of sales and marketing, I'm going to definitely do or should not do? Over to you, Nikesh.
So first is the thing which I will say, that simplification of process. Whatever you do, whichever you do. Again, as I always say to my customers, though I represent Oracle, right? But choose what is best for you, right? I might be having the best breed of products. Like say, for example, I might be having the bots and everything, but do you really need it? So first thing is to understand the customer is simplification, right? While we understand the marketing gimmicks, but how will you reach out to the people, who are uneducated? So again, when you just go with the lingo, just don't stick to the things which are happening, right? Also, one thing I would add, like I just wanted to cover that part also, which is also one of the secret. Like say, for example, while you have done all your data unification and everything, what is that you are going to do that thing? Can you model it? So while you have collected the data, just try to model it using some, and this is the real case where you can use machine learning. You can have your own models, or then the solution which we provide, you just put in. So that because there was a question also in the this particular interview section, that what about the over planning as compared to the supply and demand? I guess probably it was for Rohit. But if such situation arises, it's because when you don't do the data driven, that's more on the gut feeling, right? So once you have the data unification, go for the modeling aspect also, so that you have enough to plan and predict how the things will happen. And the customer success, again, I'm saying, once you have onboarded the customer or dealer, whatever lingo you want to use, ensure even the last stage, which we normally say that it's a liability to service them, right? But again, try to understand where we can find the upgrades, where we can find a definite path, where we can, have generate some revenue, come to the new business model. Like say, for example, Vipla was talking about the new cards and all those. Similarly, a bigger tractor industry in India. Okay, so forget about buying. Okay, that typical subscription model. What they are doing is register yourself, just give us a ring, and during the farming season, with the driver, they will be sending the tractor. So it's just not about the selling, it's just not about the service, but it's about a different business model, because ultimately you are doing it for the customer. Once he's happy with your subscription, obviously he would get influence, and some other way through microfinance or whatever, right? He would be coming to you and buying the things. I'm just giving some real perspective which we have been working.
Perfect. Yeah. No, great. Rohit, same question to you. 2 secrets which you think are the sauce.
Yeah, so I'll keep it short and simple. 2 secrets. First, demand generation. Second, customer fulfillment.
That was almost as secret as it can be. And just Rohit, if I have to, because I need to understand, when you say demand generation, how much of it is white space and how much of it is going deep in a customer account? Do you have any point of view on that? That, hey, you want to go new frontiers because you talked of exports, or is it going deep into an account? Okay, Rohit, when you come back, we'll ask that question. Viplav, if same question to you, Rohit, there is some connectivity challenges on Rohit's side.
First is, it may sound very simple, but I think that's the most important. Engage with the customer. Any product or service that you are selling, for whom you are selling, engagement with that target group is going to give you two things. Either you can start a trend where you can lead, or you can pick up a trend very early so that you don't miss the bus. And let me give you a small example so everybody can understand. About 12, 13 years back, if you look at our industry, typically the vehicles were, manual steering. There was no power steering, no air conditioners. And we started this new division that I work with right now within the organization. And when we met the customers, we realized that it was all about low price and carrying goods. That were the only two themes in the industry. Trust me, and I'm not joking, this is backed by data. When we launched our first set of vehicles in the year 2011, we came with power steering and AC. 92% of our business happened in power steering and AC, and AC was 11%. Even today, we have almost monopoly in AC after 10 years. But trust me, there are buyers who wanted AC at that point of time, who in hotter markets like Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, in the hotter climate, said that in our return trips, if we have the AC on, we can come back faster without taking breaks. We can do more trips per day. We earn more money. With power steering, they said our hands don't pain. We make more money. See, again, it's all about TCO and it's about convincing. So that is a trend we started. And that's what I said. When you engage with the customer, you can start a trend, take an early lead, get into a monopoly, and customer benefits. Experience is amazing. You make money. And second is what I said in the second. I said what I said in the beginning. It's all about a solution. You try to sell a product, it will never sell. Sell a solution, get into the ecosystem. Of course, give the experience. It cannot be lip service. Because the moment you get into the ecosystem and you make the slightest of the mistake, you'll be thrown out. Because you are trying to do so many things. So you have to be more careful of giving the experience, because in the ecosystem, you are competing with multiple industries, multiple companies. You are not just in your own comfort zone of what you produce. So I think these are two very important things according to me.
No, excellent point, Viplav. While Rinkesh is trying to answer, Krishna, lovely question, and Rohit, I know we lost you for a fraction of a second there, but Rohit, the question is on the QA box from Krishna, and let's get into the questions before we start getting more responses to this. Is what is the single most important change that happened which resulted in customer delight? He has given us few options: organization, agility, digitization, or data-based decisions. Rohit, maybe first you.
Digitalization was something which we had already adopted in the pre-COVID era. The only biggest change for us typically has been the integration of all tech plays we have. So our comprehensive.
So you said the comprehensive nature of the solutioning was important. Viplav, what is the single most? Yeah. So Viplav, what is the single most important thing?
I would say, Aditya, last 2 years, it has been customer partnering backed by data. Because customer is running his business at a smaller scale. You are running your business at a much larger scale. You have so much of data. So partnering with the customer with data gives that customer wow. I think that's been a big change, and pandemic has actually accelerated the whole thing. And, it's a good thing we were forced into it, because we realized we were sitting on so much data we were not using for ourselves and for our customer. And let me tell you, it has led to customer wow, because we've helped him, have a better quality of life, if I have to put it in that way, by earning better, by providing better for his employees, etc., etc.
Rinkesh, your response to that?
Yeah. So again, the digitization, rather instead of digitization, I will say a typical business transformation at every leg, at every piece of process which you are working. And obviously, all these things should be backed by the data-driven approach. While I have done the transformation, digitization, best breed of applications, but yet not connected, yet not data-driven approach, again it will fail. So these two things should be there. Yeah, and that too at every micro moment of the customer of engagement, right? From marketing, sales, service, whatever you call it, at every moment it has to be done. Yeah.
Brilliant. We're almost at the end of it. I'm conscious that we have about 7-8 minutes left. I wanted to wind up about 50 minutes of formal conversation. We had about 2 or 3 questions. You heard lots of examples. From where we look at it, or I look at it, from KPMG, there are, I think all of this is absolutely critical. But if I have to summarize, taking what Viplav, Rohit, and Rinkesh said, there are three things that you got to do fundamentally. One is understand how are you a part of your customer's success and journey, because it's very important to understand that every customer in the last 24 months has pivoted to a different level of survival and a different trajectory of growth. More so if you are playing in the MSME, SMB space, even in the mid-market space, because large customers had different ways of dealing with it. Possibly it's a little bit different. But if you are in the long tail of Indian business, please understand their purpose and their success parameters, because that has definitely shifted. Second, I think it's very important now that you go deep and understand what data you have and what are you doing with that data. Because just by collecting more of data, which is the pre-pandemic nature, it was not that we did not know what to do, but the need was very different. Today, the need is to understand on what are you doing, because customers expect that of you. It is no more a wish list, it's actually table stakes. And the third thing is, once you have got that, how are you galvanizing the organization to look at insights so that you can move in a direction which is uniform to deliver what I call is a unified experience. So from unified data, start delivering a unified experience, because you would be in different channels. You would be operating through different dealer distributor models. You'd be operating through different market models. The customer's expectation is every time they see your logo, they will relate to exactly the same experience at the top of that logo. They will not differentiate that this is coming from a channel partner and this is coming from a own dealership or this is coming from the digital channel. Customers have understood that convergence is the name of the game, because that's what we are feeding them in their personal space. So what we started with Rinkesh saying that, yes, customers, when they buy Amazon, are they looking at the same behavior? Almost similar, because the decision maker in the customer side, he's saying, hey, can I see my own portfolio? Can I touch base with you in a digital only channel? And look at us. Here we are sitting at different points and trying to express and do business in work from anywhere solutions. Now, how different is that going to be for your customer? I don't think so. It's going to be any different, because that's how they would like. So your customer promise is across all channels. With that, we'll open up for more questions. There is one more. Krishna, thank you for your question. If there are questions, do put in there. There is one question somebody has left me on the chat. And this is a question is, how are you convincing people on budgets? Viplav, Rohit, anybody wants to take it? I'm not going to ask Rinkesh about it because he's the beneficiary of the budget. There's a conflict. Sorry, Rinkesh. But Viplav, Rohit, how are you convincing your IT guys to put the budgets? How are you creating the business case?
I've not been able to understand the perspective of the question when it comes to
how
budget.
are you creating the business case? How are you creating the business case for any investments or any change that you want to bring in on digitalization?
Oh, okay, all right. So, to bring digitalization, I think is a need of the hour. Thankfully, we prepped ourselves good in a much better situation during the pre-COVID era, because we invested in the technology. We invested not only in technology, but we also ensured that we bring about the required innovation in our product, and also the required innovation in the entire customer life cycle. Now, typically there is, of course, a budget earmarked for digitalization, and something which I think all evolving companies and even the big companies are today investing on. So I don't think there's any issue there on the budget piece. At least for I can speak on behalf, being a steel major and a international conglomerate. I think that's the need of the hour, and we need to create that thing for us.
Viplav, any thoughts on how your business cases are prepared?
Yeah, I think it's interesting at our place, and that's how I think it should get solved. Business has to lead the need for digitization. For example, I have to stand up and say, I need this for my channel partners, for my end customers. and the budget then has to go from my head. So, there is no separate digitization budget. It is the pressure on the business to, give the experience to the channel partner and the customer. And business is proposed solutions by the internal team. We have a digitization team. They keep on bringing proposals. They show us what new tech is doing, what data analysis can lead to. And then whatever we jointly agree with them, the budget goes from our side. So budget is never a constraint if the business is convinced. Business can lead the idea or the digitization team can lead the idea. There's a lot of cohesive working because we've realized you can survive today by not doing it, but by tomorrow you will die. So you better move forward on that.
Viplav, we have completely run out of time, but there is an anonymous question, but I'm sure the question is very meaningful from an anonymous attendee, that how will and how fast the AI or ML technology impact lead time in manufacturing sector, and what technologies will be forefront in coming times? So this is a question coming up in saying how soon AI and ML is getting adopted. Let me just quickly simplify. Very quickly, 30 seconds. I have one more question also from Sanjay.
I believe, Aditya, in Industry 4.0, AI and ML is basic hygiene now, typically in large manufacturing companies like us. So I think in the next 3 to 4 years, in the short term, to say a midterm, about 5 years, this will almost become the gospel truth and Bible for us.
Brilliant. Viplav, any view? Because Sanjay is asking a similar question. Do you visualize AI ML as a key to customer experience? IoT.
Yeah, I think AI will play an important role, and it's already started coming in, if you ask me. And as Rohit rightly said, Industry 4.0 will have to use a lot of it. So it is something that it's better to adopt fast. Of course, it has to be done consciously. You can't run too ahead of time and spend so much money that you have no money left to do anything else. But all these things are now very necessary. And if you see pandemic wave 1, wave 2, and now what we are seeing in Europe and Australia or US, it clearly shows us in times to come, as human force, we will have to reckon with such challenges in the future. And the more we adopt to these things, of course, not recklessly, it is better. So I think it is there, not even around the corner, and it's there for everybody to see what best to adopt in.
Brilliant. Rinkesh, we'll finish off with you. We started with you. So AI and ML question to you. It must be almost home stretch for you here on that.
So in manufacturing, there is a lot of scope with IoT and ML, like typically even at their production bay, right? Anything which they have to, understand, right from the raw material to their white lining to anything which they want to do, even for their tear down benchmarking, whatever they want to do. IoT sensors, right, are there right from the production bay. Then when it comes to the usage pattern, so say for example, like Viplav mentioned about the trucks being monitored, how the drivers are idling, how they're accelerating, right? Similarly, there is a famous elevator company where all these IoT sensors are there, which is like, for a rapid emergency action in case something goes wrong, they are monitoring so that they can even predict and they can stop from there itself. So wherever there is a data, all these things will, if you do not have the data, these things won't work. If you have the data, unified data, all these things will work.
Perfect. So its data is a secret sauce. We've completely run out of time. I wish we had a little bit. This is a topic which we can really go on and on. You can imagine the passion, people ready to miss flights, but we'll not do that. Thank you, Rohit, and hopefully you catch your flight. Thanks, Viplav, for being as candid. Thank you, Rinkesh, for really opening up and keeping the business perspective. Thank you, Sonali and ET team. You have been fabulous support. You always find the right set of panelists to really bring this out. And thank you, audience, for staying in. Almost 80 of you stayed till the end. Really appreciate you taking time. Please do follow us online because that's the only way we are able to get a feedback from you as to how you felt. And do share your views around this topic, because this is going to only grow on us as we go in. Lovely. Stay safe wherever you are, and take care of yourselves. Thanks for having us here. Back to console here.